You know, there are beings. Earthlings that are often overlooked, but offer more amazement than some other creatures we can make up. A bee is one of those beings. It is the super being of its kind, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to give you a look into their lives. I'm going to show you how much their population may affect our population. I'm going to show you some of their secrets of these magnificent creatures, and a superfood that they create. We will look into the workings of their natural technologies, and you will see just how advanced these beings are, as we step into the secret lives of bees. Worldwide, there are some 20,000 species of bees. They are believed to have originated in Africa, a descendant of the ancient wasp, and today are found almost everywhere where flowers exist. Now there are two classes of bees, social and solitary. And within these two classes, there are only a few that people commonly encounter. In the social class, there are bumblebees, honeybees, Africanized honeybees, the carpenter, the digger, mining, yellow-faced bees, leaf-cutting, mason bees, plaster bees, and sweat bees. These are all solitary. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll be discussing the social class that form large colonies, particularly the common honeybee. Now these bees are community builders. They will build a colony to its peak population, then the queen along with 30% to 70% of her workers form a swarm and leave the hive to find a new home. The youngest generation are left in the old hive to start a new colony. This is how a colony of bees reproduce, one colony at a time, each different from the first. Starting now, I'm going to use a British voice, or try to. Good luck. Now, what happens inside the hive is something amazing. Well, what you have inside the hive is a caste system in which you have three types of bees, the female queen and the worker bees, lastly the male drones. The way this works is the queen can choose the sex of the bees in the colony. After she takes in the sperm of the drone, she can store it in her spermatheca, which is the holding sac in her reproductive system. This allows the queen to decide which eggs she will fertilize and which eggs she will not. If the eggs are unfertilized, they are haploid, meaning they have a set of unpaired chromosomes. These will become the male drones. If, on the other hand, the queen fertilizes the eggs, they will become diploids, creating a female queen or worker. It is the diet of the female larva that determines if she is a queen or worker. If she is well fed, she will become a queen. If she is starved, she will become a worker. Now, a queen can live up to 5 to 6 years, but they normally live up to 2 to 3 years in the colony. During that time, the queen may lay up to around 500,000 eggs. When she does this, she releases a pheromone that keeps the other female bees from laying eggs, although few colonies may end up with more than one queen. Now that the British boy is done, let's continue. Now, because drones are the result of unfertilized eggs, they have no fathers, but they do have grandfathers. Their lives are really not that great, as all they're required to do is eat and mate with the queen bees. Now, I know to some, that sounds like a pretty sweet deal, but the life of a drone is you either mate or you die, and even when they do mate with the queen, that still kills them. You see, drones will leave the colonies to go congregate with other drones. When the queen leaves the hive, she'll come across one of these congregations. When the drone sees her, they give chase and the fastest drone wins. The winning drone, poor sat by say, will mount the queen and releases endophallus into the queen, causing the drone to fall back paralyzed. The queen then takes in the drone's semen and store it into her spermatheca. After the queen is done with him, the drone falls dead. Now that's what I call a climax. There is still a bit of British boy in there, but pretty sure you can deal with that. Anyway, this is where things get a bit crazy. Often after this process, the drone's endophallus will detach from the body and is left hanging out of the queen. This is called the mating sign, and this lets other drones know that this queen is a prime candidate for mating. The queen will go through 20 plus endophalluses before the day is up. Yes, you heard me right. At least 20 phalluses before the day is up. She will actually take in a drone semen, make them think he's the one, and after he's dead, she releases all his semen to move on to the next drone. You could practically call her a whore to Down syndrome people. But going on, what sucks is that most drones don't even get a shot at the queen before they die. Now, the reason the queen does this is to increase the chances of getting healthy semen, as well as ensuring diversity among the colonies and prevent inbreeding, which is why it is important to have one queen per colony. However, on occasion, a hive may end up with more than one queen. Normally, the worker bees do not lay eggs with a healthy queen present. But if the queen is failing, or if she is missing, workers may step up to lay unfertilized eggs, creating drones with the semen that could preserve the genetics of their colony. So, because workers do not lay eggs, they take on several tasks in and outside the hive throughout their lifetime, which is around 6 weeks. These workers go through 4 main stages after the worker bee emerges from its cell. As an adult, it starts out as a cleaner and capper. Their job is to clean the dirty cells and learn how to cap or cover the cell with wax using their newly developed wax glands. They also have a way of branding each cell to let other bees know what's inside the cell, sort of like a bee writing system. They also learn how to get food, and after a few days, the workers move up to become nurses, where they tend to the brood and queen, basically keeping the brood and queen fed with royal jelly. Royal jelly is a secretion of nutrition from the worker bees of the hive. This is fed to all the larvae to a certain point, then they are cut off. Only the chosen queen will continue to be fed the royal jelly. So, after this nurturing stage, the workers begin to move more into the building the hive. This is where they become the honeycomb builders, packers, cleaners, and movers. They take and handle the nectar from incoming foragers, passing it along to one another. First, they become the honey producers, and then they become the wax producers, the cappers of the honeycomb cells. They begin to take orientation flights around 18 days of age, mind you. They leave the hive, circle it, and travel a short distance, then return. And each time they do this, they travel a little bit further. Each hive has a distinct odor. This helps bees of the colony to identify their hive, but sometimes workers can drift, and sometimes they wind up in a hive that is not their own. Not a good day for that bee, but these orientation flights prepare them for the next and final duties, guarding and foraging. Now, because every hive has a distinct odor, so do the bees that belong to that hive. So the guard bees will actually post up outside the hive, like royal guards, and ask everything trying to enter the hive, and making sure outsiders do not get in. See, bees use several methods to communicate. One of them is by dance, which are rhythmic signals to other bees. These dances have numerous functions, including providing information about what is going on outside the hive. They can triangulate locations by coordinating their dances to line up with the sun. This can give away the position of food and predator. They can see a bear or man coming in the distance, report back to the hive that some type of monster is coming for their honey, and then they will take action, because remember, they have their own enemies, for example, the yellow jacket. Oh, this dude is bad news. Honeybees don't have an easy life, folks. These yellow jackets are just social wasps. They build colonies just like honeybees. Except, the yellow jacket has a taste for flesh. And when their food supply runs low, which tends to happen going into the fall season, guess who they are going to pay a visit to? The honeybees, and even us. Ever have one try to take your coffee or food? They can be quite aggressive. They're actually trying to rob you with a potentially deadly weapon. And these are the ones that like to sting you. And yes, they can be the criminals of the bee kingdom, or the jocks, probably why they're called yellow jackets, or those frickin' chads waiting to take that nice wallowing schmuck at my fellow nerds and geeks. They will kill the hive, they will kill the guards, kill the workers, eat the young, and steal the honeys. And hornets, these other wasps, they're no better. They run around all day kidnapping poor green grasshoppers like any uncle would, and throw them into their prison half dead so that they can keep them fresh, till it's time to feed them to their young. Now of course I'm making it sound worse than it is. They do play an important role in the circle of life, but that's for another time. Moving on, the foragers of the honeybees are the elders of the colony. At 21 days of age, they are the ones that go out to the world to collect 4 things. Pollen, which they use as a protein source. Nectar, which is a carbohydrate or sugar source. Propolis, which is a tree resin used for building materials and medicine for the hive. And water, used for hydration and cooling and evaporation for the hive. This is also one of the ingredients they need to produce honey. Now bees have to slave to make this honey. The foraging bee usually collects nectar from some 100 flowers before returning to the nest. One bee can only make 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey within its lifetime. So, it takes about 550 plus bees collecting nectar from around 2 million flowers for 1 pound of honey. What they do is they will suck the nectar from the flower, store it in a separate stomach, and once full they carry it back to the nest to pass along to one of the honey producers in the hive. They chew on the nectar, mixing it with enzymes that start blowing bubbles with it to start what's called active evaporation. And they will keep passing this nectar on to other bee producers for a good 20 minutes until it is ready to be placed in one of the hexagonal cells. Once it is placed in the cell, it is still wet, so the bees will start passive evaporation by fanning the honey with their wings. Finally, they will cap the honey with a wax layer for storage. Now, I want everyone to understand that these types of bees are completely dependent on the power of the sun. Think about this. In a hive as a collective, there are warm-blooded creatures living in a temperature-controlled hive. Individually, outside the hive, they are cold-blooded. Try figure that one out. and the honey that they produce are one of the most miraculous superfoods that exist. First off, it is the only food that virtually never goes bad. You could take a chunk of honey from Egypt and eat it. All you have to do is heat it up. With that said, it is a great prepper's or survival food source. Ooh, can't hide from me. I know some of you guys are preppers. You better listen, might save your life. You know honey is better than any antibiotic out there. Okay, maybe not, but will do much better than a lot of them. Probably most without harming you at least. You can use it topically, and not only will it kill the bacteria, it will keep the bacteria from building up immunity against it. See? Already better. But it has to be raw honey, straight from the hive, into the jar. That little bear-shaped bottle of brown honey, that stuff has been massively processed and pasteurized, heated up to kill bacteria. Did you hear what I just said? Let me repeat. Commercial honey suppliers, they heat up, or should I say, cook the crap out of bacteria-killing honey so that they can kill the bacteria in the honey. Pretty ironic. If you do use honey, make sure it is raw. Make sure it is locally grown, as you want to support local beekeepers and those colonies in their area. Here, if you don't believe me, go get yourself some raw honey and eat it. You won't get sick from that bacteria. I promise, if you end up getting sick or end up in the hospital, I'll pay for it. I'm just joking. I'm not wasting my money on you. It was your choice. Also, if you help local beekeepers, you'll be supporting them in keeping their bees healthy, which will help them keeping their bees alive. The reasons are further in the presentation. Anyway, the pollen collected in your area is the same pollen you breathe in, so eating honey is the same source as the pollen, will help build immunity to the pollen relieving allergies. Honey is a great energy booster, as the natural unprocessed sugars hit the bloodstream quickly. Honey helps keep the memory intact as it's loaded with antioxidants needed to keep the brain sharp, at the same time helping the brain to absorb calcium. It has antifungal and anti-inflammatory properties, so in other words, it's good for scrapes and burns. It can relieve sores, and I'm not too sure about this one, but do as you like. Supposedly, it can relieve herpes. See, the enzymes draw the fluid from the sores and cut microorganism growth, and as the honey mixes with the small amounts of hydrogen peroxide in your body, it is better than any prescription or non-prescription you can buy. Maybe. Don't take my words on this. You can add some oil, almond, coconut, and make moisturizers, hair conditioners, and maybe add some crushed almonds to it to make some facial scrub. And I know a lot of you guys have it. I have it, but I don't use this method because I don't like wasting my honey. But honey will take care of that acne problem. It will boost your immune system. It can fight cancer cells. Not a cure, but can fight. Also, don't think about giving cancer patients some jar of honey. That'd be freaking weird. It can also fight yeast infection, gum disease. It relieves acid reflux. And it is also a natural aphrodisiac. You can truly call this liquid gold. So, now that we've gotten through Honeybees 101, I want to discuss something that could develop into a major issue in the future. If we are not careful, as you all very well know, we have been having issues with the decline in bee population. That's been going on since the mid-40s. I propose that World War II caused it. I'm joking. My goodness, it didn't really catch people's attention until about a decade ago. So let me tell you how important bees are. The majority of vegetation you eat is dependent on bee pollination. When you have a field of flowers and trees, the wind will only contribute to about 20% of the pollination. When you throw bees in the mix, pollination goes from 20% to 100%. And bees are so efficient, they get to every single flower. We've been trying to achieve this by hand. It cannot be done. I also really wanted to add a racist joke in here, but I know how much offense some people take over Asian and other jokes around here. I mean, my presence is already offensive enough. Farmers often need to keep beehives around their crops, increasing their yield 3 times over. Now, the biggest problem for bees right now is inbreeding. Parasitic mites, which attach themselves to suck their blood, weakening the bee. Can you imagine having a bug the size of a basketball stuck to your back, drinking your blood all day, and you still have to travel to work or school, do your work, come back home to do more work, with this thing stuck to you? Well, what's amazing is now beekeepers have been able to introduce a much smaller insect to the bee population, which will go inside the bees and eat the mites. Holy crap, it's freaking 2 a.m. I've been doing this since 4, guys. Holy crap. You know what? Forget it. I'm just gonna generalize it. I'm tired and stressed out right now. Practically, the other thing that's threatening bees are pesticide, specifically neonicotinoids. It's just nicotine. Look at me stuttering. It's just nicotine, and too much of it will kill the bee. The other one will get the bee, too little of it will get the bee freaking high, and it'll spread around the hive. And now bees will only go to pesticidic, if that's a word, hives. I mean, not hives, flowers. I'm sorry. My goodness, it's almost 3 a.m. Alright, back on track. So bees do not flap their wings, they beat them. And fun fact, every time they extract the pollen out of them, they shake themselves so violently, it comes out. Yeah. And they beat around 230 beats per second. You know what? Forget it. I wanted to get into this whole entire conspiracy thing and like get into more details. It's freaking late, and I gotta turn this in tomorrow. I don't know why I'm telling you as my personal story at all to begin with. So I'm just gonna get to the last paragraph, the conclusion. Pretty sure Mr. Schneider's heard enough of this as well. It's freaking 15 minutes long. I'm freaking done. Freaking fricks. You know, I'm pretty sure I can cuss, right? Mr. Schneider, I can cuss. Please let me cuss. Let's get to the last paragraph. The point is, you look at something like a bee, and like many other things, forget their importance, forget why they were worshipped by the ancients, forget the technologies are being developed, inspired by these creatures. There are many things we do not understand. We are still learning. Honey has more benefits that I have not discussed that we still do not know what they are. Bees are one of those most organized beings on the planet. In time, we may discover even more secrets about their lives. But let's stay conscious about their numbers at this point, because if they fail, at our population numbers, we are sure to soon follow.
How can you leave me? Can't you see my tears? Listen while I say